You're more my reactionary guy.
Yeah. He picked a subject I don't know much about, so I'm just going to say funny, stupid shit the whole time.
And again, this is just laid back, so say what you want.
And literally, we don't have to technically stick to the subject for the whole time. We can make fun of Rachel in the background. And
it's
usually what I do.
just us hanging out.
Include me.
It's like just three guys sitting around.
Cool, we talk about whatever.
We've talked about this for years, but I still want Rachel to come on and just, Rachel,
Yeah,
what's the update?
sports.
And she goes, sports and leagues. She knows nothing about sports at all.
Yeah.
It's so, remember when she texted us? She said, I'm at the gym and I'm watching.
It was Madison and you.
So you're into bodybuilding, but you don't know much about sports?
That's the only sport I know.
She knows nothing about sports, so when I'm talking about something, she just glazed over look. I don't know who that is. Oh,
are you ready?
I gotta say this. We're at Myers, and Wayne Gretzky was the Breitling guy.
Yeah.
And his picture's on there, and Jeff said, I'm gonna get to meet Wayne Gretzky. And so he walks off, talk to a customer, and I go, holy shit, Wayne Gretzky. And she goes, I don't know who that is. Yeah.
One of the greatest hockey players in the history of
I
mankind.
watch hockey.
All right.
Let's just do this.
Ready?
Welcome to Middles Open. I'm Michael Morris. With me, as always, Doug Risher. Doug, how are you?
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. Special guest today, only because I made him stay. Lou Willard, who I just found out on the last show, rated on Bucknuts, one of the top 12 recruits in Ohio State history. Lou, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Now, Lou, you have a podcast of your own, don't you?
Yes, we do a sports podcast. It's called Junior D Sports. We put it out. We try to record weekly, but schedules get kind of crazy sometimes. I have a daughter playing college sports, so eats my weekends up in the fall. But it's juniordsports.com if you can look the show up. When we try to bring sports and humor together, podcast, so there's no language barriers there. So it gets pretty interesting sometimes.
Well, we appreciate you lowering yourself to be on our show.
Oh!
Lower your standards slightly, because we can't get away with the language, so we have to follow.
Yeah, we need to get a dump button.
Yeah.
The topic that I want to talk about, I know how
right
much
now.
Doug loves this subject, but I wanted to get Lou in here because he can tell us from the perspective of somebody that actually was in those locker rooms and was a potential NFL guy, right? Is that fair to say, Lou?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. So what's happening right now is this kind of pissed me off that West Virginia, their starting quarterback, the guy's been in trouble at Florida, sits out a year, comes to West Virginia, and bowl season comes. He's initially a Heisman finalist.
Right.
And now he's skipping the bowl game. So, not that I care about West Virginia, I just care about that game is going to be a wreck. So if you like to sit there and watch college football all day long, I'm going to watch a kid I've never seen play for West Virginia. West Virginia's still going to get the same check from the bowl game and put out an inferior product.
And the people that are going don't get to see the people they want to play.
So, but that's not the only guy.
Right.
I want to ask somebody that played, because Doug and I, obviously, we probably.
I did play high school football.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I watched
37
Lou play
years
high
ago.
school football, so it's fine.
You watch Lou play.
So, and listen, between the two of us, we were really good. But your opinion on this, when you see not just this kid from West Virginia, but when Bosa decides he's not going to come back, he's going to train for the draft, guys like that. Because there's a list right now of 12 of these guys that are not going to play in bowl games because they don't want to get hurt or hurt their draft status. Did you ever hear that? I know we're talking about years ago.
Yeah, it was a different time back then, obviously in the early 90s, but I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't have a problem with these guys skipping these bowl games because what you don't see is anybody from Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, or Oklahoma skipping the game.
Well, they're getting paid.
Because, maybe they're getting a little bit on the side, but, neither here nor there. They're still playing for something. They're trying to get a national title. When you pull what a couple players pulled a few years ago, like we talked about before we came on the air, showing up to the bowl game, practicing, taking reps from the guy behind you, and then going, Coach, I think I'm going to set it out.
Right.
That's wrong. That is wrong. But when you let them know ahead of time, I don't care if it's the quarterback. Will Greer is projected as a 6th overall pick. He has nothing to gain by going out and playing against Syracuse. He has everything to lose. From a bad game to an injury. Remember Jalen Smith?
Yeah.
Who was the other one here in our notes?
Well,
Leonard Fournette. Or not Fournette, but Jalen Smith, and I forget the other guy. But Jalen Smith got hurt. Jake Butt.
Yeah.
Big time injuries.
That
Jake
was-
Butt has never really bounced back from his
And
injury.
it hurt his overall
Well,
draft.
I think he was like a 4th or 5th round pick because they didn't even know if he would be healthy enough to play again. But it's worth taking a shot because those aren't guaranteed deals.
Right.
Yes, and they never bounce back. So I understand these guys not going to play in the TaxSlayer.com bowl.
Well, that's
You
the
know-
biggest bowl there is.
Yes,
is the
it's
coolest
just
name,
like
yeah.
now I can see if a guy was skipping the Rose Bowl. I don't think a guy would skip the Rose Bowl because it is the Rose Bowl. It is a special
Is
environment
that
and
what makes
everything.
it different? Does it make it different based on where the teams are ranked or where you're playing? So let's
Absolutely.
say if Penn State got to go to the Rose Bowl, it's not the national title game, but it's Oregon and Penn State, and both teams are 8-4. You're still going because it's the Rose Bowl,
I would.
but that's what I'm looking
Because it's that. It's because it is the granddaddy of them all.
for.
It's,
You get one shot.
you get one shot in life at the Rose Bowl.
But if it's a Capital One
I'm
Bowl,
out.
you're not doing it.
I'm out. Depending on if I'm a projected first round pick. Like we throw Nick Bosa in this, but his is different. He has surgery. Like he
Right.
wasn't coming back to play just the Rose Bowl. I mean, he can't. He's coming off of surgery.
That one I don't have as big a problem with,
But-
because he was hurt.
Yeah.
If you're not hurt, and again, I have no room to say anything because it's not like I lost my job at West Virginia to Will Greer. But I am saying when I'm seeing these guys out there, there is a point where it's like, are you quitting on your team? I guess that's the way I look at
It's
it.
not viewed like that in the locker room unless you pull the stuff the guys pulled a few years ago, show up, and then don't play. Because I guarantee you, no one in that locker room was mad. The happiest person in the world is your backup.
Right.
You can't tell West Virginia's backup quarterback that he's not going to go throw for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns against Syracuse. He's at West Virginia just like Will Greer was. He has aspirations to be an NFL quarterback just like Will does.
Right.
And in his mind, the mindset of you come to Ohio State, and I know it drives people crazy. No one's coming there for academics.
What?
That,
Are you being serious?
listen, I know I'm dropping a hot take here. No one's going there for academics that puts that uniform on.
Well, I'm sure that a former art major like yourself, that
I'm
you are being honest.
Hey, listen,
For
best of the
competitive
basket
dance.
weaving. Best of the basket weaving. And I am telling you, you go and you only plan to stay 3 years. Nowadays, they don't even plan to stay the full 4. They plan to come in, play right away, and leave in 3 years. And the coaches come and go. Look how many coaches come and go on these kids. They go to this new school. They're there in their second year. They bring a program from nowhere to somewhere like UCF. And then all of a sudden, your alma mater call and you bail out on them. What about the recruits that just signed? They can't leave.
Right.
So no one's bashing the coach for going to make millions of dollars. I'm not going to bash these guys because they got million waiting on them come April. Out of those 12, I made the list up. Only 2 of them aren't projected to be first or second round picks
That are not playing in the bowl game?
that are not playing in the bowl game. And that's just one of a million mock drafts, too. I'm sure they're in the first or second round in some mock
Joe
draft. There's
Kuiper has
45 of them.
everybody as a first round pick. It's kind of like the NCAA tournament. I just fill as many brackets as I can.
And eventually he'll get it right.
Yeah.
You know, but
See, I can see both sides. Like, I agree, the guys dropping out of, like, the main games that, going for the championship actually have something to go for. But, like, any of these real small bowl games that don't matter, why risk the injury?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
risk damaging your potential in the future? But I also see, from the fans' perspective, when you pay big money to go to these games, and you want to see these specific players play, them being upset about it too. Like say I go to a Cavs game when LeBron was still playing, and then he decides to sit it out
Right.
for resting. I'd be upset because I paid big money to see LeBron play. I know this is kind of
Yeah.
But
well,
this is
I'd be
still
upset
kind of the
too
same
because
thing.
he's a mega millionaire getting paid to play.
right. Well, and
These kids are
that's what you're going to see too.
Yeah, and these are still 18 to 22-year-old kids that we want to hold to a high standard like they're already in the NFL.
Right, like they're already
but we
making
let our
millions.
NFL and professional teams slide when they're not performing great.
Right.
That's always been, especially around this city.
Yeah.
This city is Buckeye crazy. You know what I mean? You treat them like they're a pro team. That's why you'll never get a pro team in Columbus.
Right.
Because it's not because we don't have the people, the finances, or the place, the means to get in a stadium built. It's just who's going to pay for that on Saturday and then go pay to see an NFL game on Sunday.
Right.
Just won't happen.
The fans couldn't afford it.
It's just not enough dollars. Yeah,
Right, right.
It's a simple mathematical problem. It's not enough dollars, but to hold these kids to that standard, and they're still kids. I mean, they're 18, 22-year-old young men. They got to make some big time decisions. And if I'm in that spot, like Dwayne Haskins is leaving. Dwayne Haskins should come back one more year. Now you go be his accountant or his agent going, you come back, you want to just have a bad year. You don't have to get hurt. but watch you go from being a top 10 or top 15 pick to being a second or third round pick.
Cardell Jones.
Right.
Cardell
If he
Jones.
left right after the bowl game, you couldn't have been you couldn't have got any more praise. And then the next year he's sitting behind Barrett. So obviously something's wrong.
Actually, yep, because we have short memories.
Right.
NFL GMs have the shortest memories of anybody going. So if you go out, or if you're a guy on the cusp of something, like Mike Weber's coming out, I think he'll be a good running back. He'd be a perfect fit for somebody like New England, even though they have Sony Michel, so they won't get him. But he's that kind of running back. Not as dynamic as Michel in the run game, but in the pass game, they're very similar. But you take somebody like him, he has a great Rose Bowl. He go from third or fourth round. Somebody will take him in the second.
Right.
All off of one great Rose Bowl game.
But in the same sense, what if he has a bad Rose Bowl?
He's still going to be that third or fourth round
You don't
pick.
think that could potentially damage his?
Well, I think you're right. When I look at guys that have had bad bowl games, like that Josh Heupel, remember?
Yeah,
he won.
every Heisman winner.
Well, yeah, Andre Ware, whatever it is. But when they played the national title game and they took a beating, he looked terrible. He looked like he couldn't play. Chris Winkie looked like the guy that was the star.
Yeah.
That guy was 48 years old as a senior in college.
Yes, he was.
But he never panned out. Heupel never gets a chance. He's a college coordinator, but it's based on that we see your weaknesses right there. So I get it when you're on the biggest stage, but when I think of it, it's kind of like your example with LeBron James. If I bought a ticket to a game and I went to see the Bulls in the 90s and Jordan sat it out, I'd be burning that building down.
I'd be pretty
Oh
upset.
yeah, in that case I would be mad, but you can't lose track of, don't lose sight of fan is short for fanatic. So all of these college bases, it just in Ohio State, we all think we're the best college team in the world. We all think we're untouchable, as our teams. And so you want what's best for your team in solely your eyes, because they don't care about these guys. No one's going to, the injury policy you can get, I think it's only up to like $2 or $3 million.
Right.
I'm not playing for that. If I'm one of these guys that's going to get drafted, especially like if Nick Bosa hadn't got hurt, he'd be playing in the Rose Bowl because it's the Rose Bowl.
Right.
But they're not skipping a Rose Bowl. They're just not going to do that. But you don't see anybody. It'll be a problem, and I'll change my tune when we start losing guys that's playing in playoff games.
Well, that's the other thing.
I think that's when you have to start going, man, I might get hurt, but my my boys need me. I helped us get to this point. Now, if I'm out, especially as a quarterback,
right?
But you see, there's probably 20 kids. I mean, Clemson's entire defensive line is going to go in the first round. They're all staying, to play the games. So if we get to the point where that starts to happen, then I'll change my tune a little bit to it. But in the meantime, I don't look at them doing anything that these coaches aren't doing.
It's kind of a double-edged sword.
It really is.
I can see totally both sides of the spectrum and understand why they would do it, but also at the same time, it's a toss-up. But I can't blame them for sitting out these games that really don't matter in the long run, that aren't going to hurt anything for their team. But like you said, if they're they end up playing in the big leagues for that, and their team's relying on them, and they're like, I'm going to sit out even though we helped you get to this far. That's where I see it being a problem. But
yeah,
see, I'm not in their situation, so it's hard for me to decide.
Hard to say. It's really hard for any of us to say until someone does 10, an 8-figure check in your face.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what you're going to start seeing, Herm Edwards has already started. Their wide receiver didn't play because the head coach told him not to.
Right.
So now Herm can go, our best interest, you want to go to the league? We're helping you. Once you help us get to this point, I'm telling you, if we're not in the playoff and you're going to benefit by not playing, I don't want you to play. I'll get this other kid ready. And trust me, that kid is
Hungry. Yeah.
He happy. The locker room is happy that their guy is going. And another thing that gets lost in it too, if the locker room's not going to turn on that kid, because guess what? You don't know who his agent is. That agent might be able to get your foot in the door if you're a borderline player.
Well, that's an awesome point because I didn't think about. I'm thinking about when you're watching it, the quality of the product. But when you're in a locker room, you had to be around when guys were leaving Ohio State early.
Absolutely.
And so the players are totally cool with it.
Players are cool
They're
with
happy.
it. Yeah, happy for you. Not because of what your buddy can. Number one, that's your buddy. That's your boy going to the league. You don't want anything back from him, but if you get to a point where you're just on the cusp of being on somebody's team, and I mean a practice team where they're going to get $3 to $4 grand a week. Hey, if he's a good enough player on that team, he tells the coach, Go pick him up. He can help us on the practice squad.
Right.
Don't want to
Now he got you a job.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
the point.
But we played with guys that left early: Joey Galloway, Roger Harper, and
Harper was the one I remember the most
yeah,
because
it's because he was announcing it walking off the field.
he's walking off the field and there he's like goodbye, see you, like he's making a
Right.
big deal out of it.
Harper's crazy.
But I was like, okay, and then he played. I mean, he was with Atlanta and the Cowboys too.
Yeah,
wasn't he?
Dallas and Atlanta, and he had a good career, and he's doing big things in the community. He's big with the Columbus Parks and Rec, and helps a lot of kids and puts together programs, and he's still a good dude.
That was the first time I ever saw that, where it was like he's giving his,
he
he's
was-
literally waving to the crowd who has no idea. Because if you weren't close,
Like, what's going on?
You couldn't
Yeah.
hear it. But I think NBC had the camera close enough that you could hear what he was saying. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess he's.
And the
leaving
one
school.
camera
He's
that he
leaving
actually
it.
walked up to and said, "Bye, I'm out of here." That camera caught it really well because he walked up to it.
So I like the point that you made, the perspective of the backup player making his whole year. You know, like, it could really make a big change in his career as well. Like,
Oh,
I didn't even think
absolutely.
of that whole perspective of it, because if that person sits out, it's his time to shine.
Because he can lock down a starting spot for next year
Right.
instead of waiting until spring to have to go ahead and
Yeah,
compete
'cause
with
it's live
everybody
fire.
that's the backup.
It's a real.
Yeah,
game.
I mean, what have you done? What you put on tape?
Right.
You know, you got to get some tape on yourself, and if he can go to a bowl game and shine, when they go in the spring, he's now number one on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Where he might not have been if he was just the backup. They might have it open between 2 or 3 guys.
Let's be
So,
honest, it's
yeah.
going to help with the ladies too.
Oh, for
Oh,
sure. I mean, that's what
absolutely.
we.
That's all that matters.
There's
right?
literally
only reason
zero
any of us play.
education going on here.
It's not about the money. Or
Yeah,
anything. It's,
I mean, how many of these guys you see walking around with somebody ugly on their arm?
you don't.
If they are, it's by choice.
Yeah.
Let's go to break because that was a really good point to end on, ugly girls out there.
Yep.
You're listening to Middles Open. We'll be right back. So let's come back, and what I want to ask about is that, like, this is the time of the season where NFL guys are shutting it down. Like they say, Cam Newton's going to shut it down. So we'll just talk about.
Yeah, they shut him down last night.
Yeah. So if that's the case, I want to talk about, is there any difference here? Because those guys are investments of their properties.
Oh, yeah, big investment.
Yeah. All right, Dougie, you ready?
Yep.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Middles Open. Still here with Doug Risher and also with our special guest, Lou Willard. Lou, give people your info on your podcast.
Oh, it's juniordsports.com where we mix sports and humor. We just try to keep it light. We do picks against the spread every NFL game all year long. And by the way, boy, having a great year. I'm having a great year now.
Yeah.
I'm about 17 games above 500 for the year.
Really?
Every game. Probably never happened again, so it's probably last year we do it.
You should be documenting that then. The topic we were talking about was the trend of college football players skipping the bowls and how that's increasing. But something that Doug had said this at first, was if you went to see the Cavs when they had LeBron and he wasn't playing, and you didn't know that ahead of time, you'd be upset. So we're talking about college kids skipping to protect themselves, whether it's through poor play or getting hurt. But now we're looking at the NFL. Lou said that they've already shut down Cam Newton for the Panthers for the rest of the year. As a season ticket holder, I would be quite upset because I don't need to. I'm not looking at the future. I'm looking at I paid $80 to $100
For this
that
season.
ticket.
For this
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. So what are they playing for?
Well, they're basically eliminated, but when we say that, like, Cam's a big star, obviously, but he also can't deliver the ball. They're just not shutting him down for no reason.
Right.
He can't make all the throws anymore because his shoulder's that messed up. So you got to get him out of the game. You're not giving yourself the best chance to win.
In the future.
If you play with Cam, you're not giving yourself the best chance to win Sunday.
Right.
You know, and
as
as a
ultimately
ticket holder,
next season as well, too.
you might lose him,
Right.
you know, for next season. So it's a little bit different in that aspect, you know what I mean? So you got to get those guys, you got to save, number one, your franchise. It's like if this was Baker Mayfield or Darnold or somebody out there hurt. But to your point, Doug, it's like you buy the ticket. Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I think it was 2 years ago or so. I took my parents to their first Steelers game.
Okay.
Well, it was the last game of the year, January 1st, against the Browns. Nobody played.
Really?
No Ben, no Bell, no Antonio Brown.
Hey, Bell's not playing this year either. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
so, and I went to 4 games this year.
Right.
But they didn't play. Well, it was my mom's first game. My dad was still a Browns fan at the time. Now he's a Steelers fan after 59 years. But,
Converted.
yeah, finally. But we kind of knew because they had already had the playoffs wrapped up. We knew it was coming. But Pittsburgh fans still booed the team off the field when they were losing 14-0 to Cleveland. And that's what converted my dad. I said, no, we paid money to see the product. We don't care if these. What if they would have got hurt already? It doesn't mean these guys can't perform any better than this.
Right.
And that's where you hold your professionals to, and people need to quit holding these colleges to that same standard. Even though the college tickets get high too, you got to at least hold them to winning, But that's the difference. If I'm an owner in an NFL team, the problem is Packers don't have an owner.
Right.
Or I'd set Rodgers down the rest of the year because he's not right. He can't even step into a throw. But he don't want to sit out because he want to play.
Week 1, and he won't come off the field.
And he won't come off the field.
I think that's the history in Green Bay. Is if you're a quarterback there, you better not take a step off that field because the next great player is probably right behind you. You don't even know.
Absolutely. But somebody's got to save you from yourself when you're a football player.
You make a great point, though. We're holding these college guys to the standard of a professional, highly paid athlete when they shouldn't be. I mean, these guys are considered amateurs, right? So, I mean, the pro players, I understand us holding them to that level because they're making all this money. We're paying to go see these professional players. Like you said, though, with Cam Newton, I mean, if he's not delivering the product, though, why even have him
And
play?
I'm okay with that. I'm just talking about when I brought
he's injured to a certain
the
extent.
college part, to me, was I'm looking at it when, and again, maybe it's just the age that I'm at, is that when you rooted for a team, I don't care if Ohio State's playing Indiana, Northwestern, or Michigan, it still meant the same thing. It was still that game. I feel like, I think it's society in general, that everything is more individualistic. What's best for me? And maybe that's the case, and I'm not complaining about it, but what's going to happen the first time a kid says, I'm not going to play in the bowl game, and I'm the quarterback at Ohio State, or I'm the quarterback at Michigan or whatever? Those traditional schools or traditional powers aren't having that issue happen. Arizona State is fine because who was watching that game anyway?
Yeah, that absolutely.
But Herm Edwards is the first coach that literally I've ever heard of in football say shut it down. Like Calipari will rip up your scholarship. If you're a first-round pick, you're not going to school after the tournament.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy. College basketball is the most hypocritical. It's just hypocrisy all around. This kid should be able to go play in the NBA if he wants to. They're locking them out to go. These kids aren't going to Duke. They're going to play for Duke. How many classes are they going to?
Oh, they got to be going to all of them.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
I bet in the 80s and 90s they had to go to class, but when Brand and Avery...
Yeah, because they were staying 4 years.
Right, but when those guys went there, and, that was a powerhouse team, and they all left at the end of the year. Now you got to restock the cabinet. Kentucky's the only one I don't understand how they keep doing it. Because everybody they get is a blue chip guy. You're all going to play 19 to 20 minutes apiece. When we get to the tournament, we're going to bump that up, but every single one of you is an NBA prospect.
Yep.
But you are a scholarship athlete, and when I'm asking you, it's like you're saying you're happy for the guys, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a point where no one, and I'm not challenging on this, I'm just asking, one goes, we're not going to win, like you said, the Gator Bowl or whatever it is.
Oh, no. And I'll tell you why. Because everybody in that locker room thinks they should start.
Really? Every single person.
Absolutely.
I mean, they got to at least want that.
Absolutely. You got to want to play. You think you are good.
Wait, I got a question. That kid that signed with Alabama yesterday on National Signing Day, he said he's going to win. He's looking forward to being in New York to win the Heisman next year. Are you telling me,
awesome.
Lou Willard, that when you signed with Ohio State, couldn't wait to win the Heisman? Is that the way you were thinking?
No, I thought that I should play, as did every other freshman. And I knew I was redshirting because I was coming off an ACL surgery.
Right.
And still watched the game and thinking, I could be out there playing. But I know I was redshirting. So say it would have been Rob. And you got to keep in mind, when you get to the bigger schools, the depth of talent in one position in a locker room is crazy. We had Robert Smith, Raymond Harris, Butler Benote, Eddie George, myself, and Travis McGuire.
Never heard of those guys.
Never heard of any of them.
Should have been starting.
Should have been starting. So, name one of the five that don't think they should start. Raymond barely played. He won MVP, played in the league because we had Robert. Butler was an afterthought. But when he got in, he produced. He was third string.
I've never got a chance to ask you this, but I'm just so curious. You see that stock of talent, and you go, yep, I'm going there, and I'm going to beat them all.
I feel like I can play.
Don't they all have to feel that way, though?
Yeah.
I mean, that's to be at that level of sports.
I agree.
You
I'm
have
just
to have
saying,
that.
here's a guy that actually
Right.
happened. Because you and I probably look at people every day like, I'm better at this than that person is, right? But this guy's going up against the elite of the elite.
The best of the best, right.
And you get to practice, and you produce. But it's back then. There's a pecking order. You know what I mean? You just gotta hang in there. That's all it is. But you feel like you can play. You got to figure. You don't get to that level unless you're a Type A personality. Type A personalities, you're typically loud, brash, and confident. Right. You think you're the best at what you do, till somebody prove otherwise. It doesn't make you a bad guy. A lot of guys are really nice. There's a few of them that people can do without because they get a little too crazy and a little too cocky. But for the most part, all these guys are really nice people. They really want to be just like you and I, where they could be left alone when they go somewhere.
Yeah.
But they can't.
Doug's always left alone.
I am.
Even
in the corner,
home,
usually.
No one bothers him.
It's true. My kids even ignore me, so.
Well, that's mine too.
It's called Xbox. That's what they're ignoring.
Well, mine 23 and 20. They don't live at the house anymore. So.
If I was Lou, I'd just walk around with my trophies and all that stuff. Like, you kids are ignoring me. Do you see what I've done? Do you see what I've done here?
What have you done to this level?
But that's
my
why
kids didn't even know I played football till I think my oldest was. I think they were 10 and 7
really?
Before they knew. Yeah.
I remind my kid all the time. That's why I'm wearing this Championship Tuesday.
He likes to remind everybody all the time.
Listen, this show is all about softball, and one day we're going to talk about it.
So how do you incorporate the wrestling into this conversation?
First of all, wrestling is part of life.
Do they sit out?
Do they? First of all, those
WrestleMania.
Guys,
do they ever sit out WrestleMania because they're worried about?
I think you're saying that because we're going to WrestleMania season starting January 1st, Doug. If you want to do a series of 12 shows on wrestling, we will do that. But we're not going to talk.
I don't think I can hang for 12 shows, man. Are you going to the WWE thing next week?
Why are you asking a question you already know the answer
so
to?
you are. So that's
I will
definitely
be there.
Yes. We're going to see you on TV?
It's not on TV.
Oh, it's not televised.
It's called a house show.
Yeah, it's called a house show.
Okay.
See, even Lou knows. You are a Canadian trader who doesn't know anything about what's important on the show, and you always wait till the end of the show.
Born
to
in
bring
Cali,
us up.
but I'm Canadian. It's okay. I'll take that.
Whatever,
I'll have to do my research more.
Trust me.
WWE's just not the same anymore.
We'll have to bring Lou back.
Don't
when
tell
we do
him
that,
that.
just so he'll sit here and go, "What are we doing for half an hour?"
We're doing wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, this technically is our holiday show, so we're gonna wrap.
Can we just do Mexican wrestling leagues?
It's called Lucha Libre.
Lucha Libre.
Lucha
Underground.
I saw Nacho
Yeah.
Libre, so I kind of understand
It's
that.
the same thing. We're gonna leave people on a high note with Lucha Libre. Lou, thanks for coming in. Hopefully, you'll be able to come back. And
Absolutely. Whenever.
tell us why you would skip the bowl games again, and that's gonna be it for Middles Open. We'll see you soon.